Well, I'm a little bit down in the dumps because Star Wars Celebration is now over. But to help me get over that sadness, we do have a lot of comics, plus a new book that came out this week. Hello everybody, my name is Starrapter and welcome to the channel. Every single week I do my best to give you guys the latest information on all the Star Wars continuity that can include the comics, TV series, video games, and more. So the first comic I want to talk about has me very excited because this is a brand new miniseries, Star Wars TIE Fighter, and this is actually the first time that there will be a crossover between Delrey books as well as Marvel comics. So we have Alexander Freed's book Alphabet Squadron, which is coming out in June. It's all about an elite squadron of starfighters that are Y-Wings, B-Wings, A-Wings, X-Wings, you know, all the letters of the alphabet. That's why the book is called that. In the aftermath of the destruction of Death Star, they are tasked with hunting down this elite group of TIE fighter pilots called Shadow Wing, and that's where this comic series comes into play, because this 5-part miniseries is going to flesh out the characters of Shadow Wing that we will see in the book of Alphabet Squadron. So this very first issue does a lot of foundational work on developing or rather introducing us to these characters of Shadow Wing. So this issue is all about basically getting these characters together. They have to do an escort mission, which they don't really want to do because they think they're better than that. And this is right in the middle of between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, by the way. So we know something big is coming. It's referenced in this, and that has to be the second Death Star and a trick that the Emperor tries to play on the Rebels as a trap. So anyway, they are given this escort mission to escort this maintenance vehicle over to this Star Destroyer that has been kind of decommissioned in a way. And when they get there, they are surprised to see that the Star Destroyer actually hits their own ship with an ion blast and sends out tons of TIE fighters to go in and try to take these guys out. And that's where the first issue ends. So there is also a backup story that has one of the characters. Her name is Jinn, and she is basically saved, or her boyfriend or something is saved. It's not quite clear, that from this character of Erica Quell, who is actually a character in Alphabet Squadron. She's the main character on the cover there, and she actually defects from the Empire to join the Rebels. So we actually see her in this backup story in this issue, actually, you know, part of the Imperial still. So that was pretty interesting there. One of the things I really liked about this issue is that they included a character from Han Solo Imperial Cadet, the miniseries that ended last month. So pretty awesome stuff how they're able to branch in this continuity. I mean, that character of Light and Dree was back, like, I guess at this point maybe 10 years in the past, wherever, when Han Solo was still in the academy. So pretty neat stuff there. And I do like how this, you know, shows us the characters in general about Shadow Wing. We have these two characters that are actually a couple in the Empire, so I'm surprised that that can even be allowed. Maybe the Empire doesn't really know what's going on. But then we have another character who is very much all inside her own head at all the times. She's not very friendly, but she's very focused. Then you have the commander, you know, so it does paint a good picture for that. So I am intrigued by this comic series because especially these are pilots of the best of the best. They are TIE Fighter Interceptor pilots, and I want to see how their story goes forth and how this does interconnect with the book going forward. Next up, we have an Age of Rebellion special #1. So this includes a story with IG-88, Yoda, Porkins, and Biggs. I also picked up the variant cover because I'm such a big fan of IG-88, and that cover is just awesome. So we have those 3 stories. The first one with IG-88 is called The Long Game, and this is basically a narrated piece that describes IG-88 and how he exists in our Star Wars universe. And he's all about doing jobs and conspiring against his you know, the people that hire him to do one better than they think they have on him. And he ends up basically, as the title suggests, playing the long game. He decides to kill this one guy instead of capturing him. Then he is basically shot to pieces, and his head is still intact. He's still able to compute data, and he actually tricks these bounty hunters into getting themselves killed by these other gangsters, and in doing so, he calls in his body from his IG-2000 ship, and it reattaches his head to the body and kills all of them and gets paid for all of them. So this story made me like IG-88 even more than I thought was already possible. I just like the lines he has in this. He doesn't say a lot at all as far as the droid is concerned. He's just like, not worth it. And he throws a grenade and blows up the guy, and they're like, "Why'd you kill him? We need his identification." And, it's just really cool, badass attitude. I do like how they mixed in lore from Legends as far as not confirming what happened, but saying like this could have been a legend where he turned against his captors and removed part of his own central processor to allow free thinking, because I love how he has that personality where he can just do whatever he wants. So overall, this is a great story depicting IG-88, and we really need to see more of this character for sure. The next story is The Trial of Dagobah. I love this issue because it shows us a day in the life of Yoda for the most part. So he's walking around Dagobah trying to get food, trying to get a meat source, and he stumbles upon these animals, and he uses a bow and arrow like a badass that I've never seen Yoda use a bow and arrow before to take out this prey. On his way back, he feels a disturbance in the force. He falls down, there's an earthquake, he gets trapped by the rocks. And at this point, he does like a lot of looking back in the past, as like trying to remember what he has done. He feels sorry for himself about how he, handled the Jedi Order, how their hubris and their blindness to what was going on caused, the destruction of the Jedi, basically. And he thinks he is responsible. So it's a great story because it's really introspective from his point of view of what's going on in the last 20 years or something. And then he does manage to actually get out from the rocks by using the Force. And it ties in really nicely to The Empire Strikes Back, because at that point he goes back home and he sees the X-Wing crash in, and who was that? Well, it's Luke Skywalker, and he is now the last of the Jedi. So I did like that whole aspect of explaining why he doesn't have his lightsaber anymore, or why does he use a lightsaber anymore, is because he doesn't feel like he is worthy of wielding that weapon anymore. That's such a symbolic weapon of the Jedi. He doesn't feel like he's worth it anymore, basically. Another thing I really enjoyed was the matter of mixing in lines from throughout the saga. Like he was talking about failure is the greatest teacher and the last of the Jedi. So it really did feel like it was pulling from different parts of the saga all around, and this was just a really nice story that showed us Yoda in this way that we're not used to seeing him being so depressed about everything and what was really going through his head, and how he deals with being in exile. So overall, excellent story. And the last story featured in this special is called Stolen Valor. It is with Biggs and Porkins. And it all starts off with Biggs and Porkins. They're in this space battle. Next thing you know, Porkins destroys this TIE fighter, and this little like trophy remembers things from the TIE fighter, like hits the windshield, and it causes him to kind of think about what he's been doing. He killed basically this guy that had a family and everything, and it causes him kind of like PTSD or something, or some kind of emotional breakdown where he just feels really depressed about how that all happened. So Big says, "Look, I think you need a vacation," and they go to this vacation planet, and they're having a great time. Things happen with this Imperial officer that's off duty, and they get in a little bit of trouble, but they do get out of it in the end, and they go right up to the Battle of Yavin, and then we end off with this issue with Porkins thinking about, what will happen after this is all over. And we know the unfortunate fate of Porkins, so yeah, it's kind of sad. So I thought this issue had great ideas, but the execution of it was just wild. This seemed to me like it was a Star Wars Adventures comic, because the colors on this planet were really, really bright, right? Super bright. But there's just ridiculous things going on here, like somebody dressing up as Jabba the Hutt, seeing Biggs in his underwear the whole time. Like, this really wasn't a story for me at all, and I'm actually kind of surprised that it was something that Marvel really did. I mean, like I said, I like the idea of Porkins having those second thoughts about being a fighter pilot, about what he has done, who has killed, stuff like that. I thought that was really great, but just the whole thing just felt pretty much kiddish to me. But overall, I think like the two stories I really enjoyed were Yoda and IG-88. So those two stories alone are worth the price of admission on this one. So moving on to Star Wars Adventures issue number 20. We have two stories as always. We have Hide and Seek, a story of Anakin and Yoda, as well as The Journey, which is a story with the character of Bariss Offee from the Clone Wars. So talking about Hide and Seek, we have Anakin, who has gone to this planet, as well as meeting up with Yoda, which he didn't expect to see there. And there they find this character that can actually make themselves invisible. We find out not just them, because later on they are found out to be hiding other species that have been affected by this clone war. So Anakin saying like, look, you have to come back with us because we could use your abilities to help win the war. But they do not want to leave because they have these people that they feel responsible for. So that is pretty much the story in a nutshell. But I do want to go over this character that can turn invisible. I thought it was super interesting that it has to do all with, how you perceive this character. So organics, this character can actually, go into the mind of these other people and make them look like they're invisible, basically. So it doesn't work on the droids, so the droids can see them perfectly. So that to me was the coolest part about this story, is just the fact that expanding a lore with the species that's very endangered that we haven't seen in Star Wars before that can make others invisible. So talking about the next story, The Journey, this was very much like the cave scene for Bariss Offee in her training as a Jedi Padawan. She goes into this this forgotten temple by the direction of her master Luminara Unduli to go and find this ancient tome. And when she goes through all this trials of basically Raiders of the Lost Ark, just going through these obstacles, she gets to this book and it just disappears in her hand. And while she thinks she failed the mission, Luminara says, look, that was actually the whole point of this was not the ending, but the journey itself, like what you've learned along the way added up to the end. And that's the message that it gives you, which I think is a great thematic thing that really resonated with me, is that, like, yeah, it does a lot of time matter about how you got there rather than how it was at the end. So, moving on to the last thing I want to talk about this week, the last new release we have is Star Wars Master and Apprentice, written by Claudia Gray, who has written the great books such as Lost Stars, Bloodline, and Princess Leia of Alderaan. So this story takes place approximately 8 years before the events of the Phantom Menace. We have Qui-Gon Jinn and his Padawan Obi-Wan Kenobi. And what I can say from so far, I've read about 40 pages so far because I've been at Celebration, but I can say she has nailed this companionship between Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, about how Obi-Wan is constantly, questioning Qui-Gon's ways, because Obi-Wan is so set in the rules of being a Jedi and very much conforms to their ideas, whereas Qui-Gon is this guy on the outside. Another big plot point that is introduced is Qui-Gon is offered a seat on the Jedi Council, but if he takes that, then he can't have Obi-Wan as a Padawan. But at the same point, Qui-Gon feels like Obi-Wan doesn't deserve Qui-Gon as a Padawan because their heads butt so much between their ideals. He feels like maybe he should go with somebody else anyway. So that's kind of where I'm at in the story. But I do like how Claudia has really built up this era that we know so little about in the canon right now. Anything before, the Phantom Menace has been generally a time of peace. So we're seeing what Jedi do in that era, which to me is super fascinating. Like, these are what they are used for, the Jedi, guardians of peace. They're not supposed to be war generals like they are in the Clone Wars. So anyway, you can expect my review coming to you very, very soon. I can't wait to just devour this book over the next couple days. So yeah, Star Wars Celebration came and went. 5 days of absolute escapism into that galaxy far, far away. To me, it was the best trip ever. It's like everywhere you walk, Star Wars, right? The music is hitting you, and the people in the costumes, the panels were amazing. Seeing a lot of this exclusive stuff that nobody else can see yet. That stuff really excites me. But when it comes all down to it, was just meeting you guys out there. I know a couple of you guys that watch the channel. It was awesome to meet you there and just talk Star Wars. Everybody there is there for one thing, right? We're all there for Star Wars. So I can't recommend it enough. If you guys are on the fence about going to Anaheim, which I'm definitely going now, I'm pretty much stating right now that I will never miss another Star Wars celebration unless like some crazy thing happens, at least in the United States. Now maybe if it's in like Norway or whatever, I probably wouldn't be able to make it because that'd be really expensive. But anywhere in the United States, I think right now I could probably swing it for the foreseeable future, hopefully. So that is my plan, and I do have lots of celebration stuff coming out to the channel. As this video uploads up, you'll be able to see other things. Like I'm putting up my last, the Rise of Skywalker video reaction and stuff like that. So do make sure, if this is the first time you're watching this channel, you subscribe and you hit that little bell icon, because then you'll be notified when those videos do go live. They were a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun at Celebration. It was awesome. Moving over to my question of this week, it comes to me on Twitter from James M, the Crazy Gamer Historian, 1999 at Rabbit McCormick. He is asking me, hashtag Star Wars Weekly, is bringing back Darth Sidious a good idea, or should he stay dead? So yeah, if you weren't aware already, if you're hiding under a rock, because if you're watching my YouTube channel, chances are you've probably seen the Rise of Skywalker teaser trailer. I'm still trying to get that down. I keep either saying The Last Jedi or Episode 9. I have to just let it stick in my mind that it's The Rise of Skywalker. Okay, so we hear that cackle at the end of the trailer, and if that wasn't enough, Ian McDiarmid comes out on stage and says, "Roll it again." Okay, that was probably a terrible impression, but you get the gist of it. He pretty much confirmed, like, okay, he's coming back in some way or another. I think it's a great idea. Now, I didn't think it was going to happen. There were some rumors, or at least people speculating beforehand, that he might come back. I think it's a great way to tie together all three trilogies. To be honest with you, Palpatine is the person that orchestrated everything that happened in Star Wars. Without Palpatine, this story wouldn't exist. He set in motion the events that would actually get him to become a Chancellor of the Republic, to then become the Emperor of the Empire, and so forth. So I think it's a great way, like J.J. Abrams, right? He has a huge responsibility on his shoulders to not only end off the sequel trilogy, but he has the responsibility of ending 9 films of the Skywalker saga. I mean, I would really never want to have the kind of responsibility that J.J. Abrams has, because that, to me, is just got to be so much pressure. All these fans, they want this thing to end in the way that's in their head, so to try to appease to all these people, it's got to be so much stress, but I can't wait to see it. So anyway, I mean, yeah, I think it's a good idea that he should be alive, because that's going to be the ultimate evil. They were talking about in a panel that I watched, the ultimate evil has returned. So there you have it. I mean, what's more ultimate than Palpatine? I mean, we don't know what kind of form he's going to be in. I'm thinking he's going to be in the flesh. I have a whole big theory which, involves Palpatine not actually having been killed, but having his clone being killed in Return of the Jedi. And Palpatine's out there in the unknown regions, which, he was obsessed with finding his dark side power. Maybe he was out there the whole time. That's probably another video for a whole nother time. I can get into this whole, intensive conversation and discussion about that. But yeah, I'm totally down with Palpatine coming back as a villain to close out the entire Skywalker saga. So next week, we have lots of good content coming out. We have Galaxy's Edge, issue number 1. It's a miniseries that is going to give us a glimpse into the Disney theme park coming later this year. We also have Vader, Dark Visions, issue number 3, as well as Dr. Aphra, issue number 31. So what did you guys think of this week's releases? Did you pick up Master and Apprentice? What did you think of TIE Fighter issue number 1? And what did you think of the specials? What was your favorite story from the special in there? Let's talk about it in the comment section below. So as I said, I have some Star Wars Celebration content coming to the channel very, very soon. So if you want to check those out, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification icon so that way you'll be notified as soon as those videos go live. So that's going to do it for me, Starrapter. Thank you guys so much for watching, and may the Force be with you always. Thanks for checking out the video. Please hit that thumbs up symbol. It helps me know that I'm making content that you guys enjoy. And if you enjoyed this video, I also include 2 videos down below you guys should check out. And please consider subscribing to this channel. It helps support me, and it notifies you guys of when I get new videos up on the channel. You can also contact me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Starrapter.